My name is Merald Meyers, and I was born in Bemidji, Minnesota, and I was drafted in the service in 1942, June of 42.
Now, what you went into the Army?
In the Army, yeah.
And where did you go for basic training?
Camp Joseph T. Robinson, Arkansas.
That sounds hot. I assume you stayed in the old wooden barracks?
Well, no, they had all new stuff when I was there. It looked pretty good.
Okay.
Had screened-in doors and everything.
Now, when you finished your basic, then you went. What was your next step of training?
Then I went to California to desert maneuvers. Well, first we went to Pasadena, South Pasadena, and we were there for a while. And then we went out on desert maneuvers. I got into the 67th Engineers. When I was at Fort Ord, and then Camp Roberts, and Fort Ord, and Camp Roberts. And one day he came out and he says, "I don't know what I'm going to do with all these guys, but I got a place for you." He called my name. And I went out on desert maneuvers.
How come they kept switching you from one camp to the next camp?
They had all these soldiers and didn't know what to do with them.
Okay.
They were coming in too fast.
Now, the engineers at that time were the people who did the construction, the roads?
No, we were printers. We did printed maps.
Okay, okay. Now, when this is over, where do you get assigned next?
Oh, we went overseas. We wound up on Goodenough Island.
Now, wait a minute. I've never heard of that before. Where overseas?
Goodenough Island is this little island about 10 miles across. It's owned by Australia, and it's got little midgets. They call them fuzzy wuzzies. They're little short guys. and they had a couple of Australians over there with trucks, and they'd move the tents and trucks around, and the Japs figured there were too much stuff on that little island. It wasn't worthwhile. So they left it alone.
So how long were you there?
Oh, probably 3 months, and then we went to Pancake Hill in New Guinea.
Oh, here's another name I've never heard. Pancake Hill. This is a different island?
New Guinea. It's one of the biggest islands in the world. It's got a Dutch New Guinea and English New Guinea. So we had kroners for money and Australian pound, and we didn't know what we were doing with money. We didn't, and then we wound up with Japanese money. That was 15 yen to the dollar.
Now, what did you do when you were on the island? Did you make maps?
Yeah, we made all the maps for the invasion of Leyte.
Oh, okay. Now, where did the information come from to make the maps?
I don't know where it came from. All I know is they told us what to do and we did it. And they had a black battalion that surrounded our area. We couldn't go anyplace. And while I was there, an ambulance went by, and on the bumper it said, they'd been kidding me all the time, "Where do you people in Minnesota stand because you got so much water?" And on the bumper it said Bemidji, and it was a Tisdale from 10 Strike. And he took me down, and I met Leo Mackhart from Bemidji, and Tisdale. He was in the Seabees, and we went up and up in the Air Force and saw. I forget what that guy's name is. So I was meeting. Told him, "Bemidji's here. The war won't last long now."
Now, how long were you on this? How long were you on this island?
Oh, I guess I don't really know for sure, but I suppose about 6 months, maybe.
Did you have to leave because it was going to be invaded or anything?
We went to Leyte in the Philippines. We were there 2 weeks before General MacArthur.
Now, I assume you went to Leyte after the invasion was over with.
Well,
completely.
We were invading it, and a couple of them got blown up pretty good. They took the island, and we moved right in there. And the other outfit, the same of ours, they got a bomb dropped right in the middle of their ship.
Off of Leyte.
Yeah.
Now, how soon did you go into Leyte after the invasion? A couple days?
Oh, we were there, yeah, about 2 days, probably. And then MacArthur came about 2 weeks later. And he waited in the last few steps, and all the cameras were going. And
I heard he did that several times for the camera. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. He liked to get his feet wet, I guess. I don't know. He didn't have to.
But did you see him come on shore?
Oh, yeah.
You were standing
We were
nearby?
standing watching him come in.
Did he practice a couple times before he came in?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay, I heard he had.
I had to have a shot and make it look good, I suppose.
Yeah, well, sure, sure. Now, were there any Japanese on the island when you got on the island still?
I didn't see any there, no.
Okay, so you didn't have to worry
There was
about.
Filipinos there.
So did you have to get involved in any combat?
Not by the time we got there. It was all done.
Okay, but being you were map makers, did you still have to carry a rifle?
Oh yeah, we carried a rifle.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
Now, anything unusual happen in Leahy?
No, except the fact that I went up to Luzon to see my brother who was on Luzon.
Wait a minute, how did you even know he was there?
Well, we wrote letters back and
Oh,
forth,
okay.
and he was there. And I went up and I stayed a couple of days up there. And we traveled around the country on Lady, had a good time together.
It's amazing that the mail got through that fast.
Yeah. And there was a guy, he was in the tent with a great big husky guy. When I left, he says, "Don't you worry, I'll take care of your little brother for you."
What did your brother do? Was he in combat?
He was in the infantry.
So he was part of the invasion.
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was there, that's all I know.
Oh, he didn't talk about it,
No.
being part of that. Now, when you were on Leyte, you were still making maps. Where did you go next?
Then we went to Japan. We were on our way to Japan when they signed the peace treaty. We were going past Corregidor and we never even slowed down. We went into Yokohama.
Wow.
And the Japanese came out and took us through the minefield. That was kind of scary.
Well, yeah, you think they were leading you to the places where the
Yeah.
mines were.
Yeah, the guy standing alongside me said, "I hope that guy knows the war is over."
How'd you hear about the atomic bomb being dropped?
Well, we could listen to the radio once in a while, and we
Okay.
had, even in New Guinea, we had the Andrews sisters and singing rum and Coca-Cola in the morning and all that. So it was kind of,
How about Tokyo Rose? Listen to her.
oh, we listened to her all the time.
Well, she had good music.
She knew what was going on in the United States, and if some boyfriend's girl was out with somebody else, she told us about it.
Now, you went into Japan as an occupation for us,
Yeah.
but you're still involved in making maps while there?
No,
or-
we didn't do anything when we were there.
Okay.
That was it. We were all done.
Okay, but how long were you in Japan then?
About 3 months, probably.
And what they have you do?
Well, we just traveled around and got to meet people. We were there, that's all. All
Oh,
the street
okay.
cars were busted up. Wires were down, and when people be hanging on the side and everything else, and then when they come to where the wire was down, everybody would get out and push till they got hooked up to another wire. Everything was, but from Yokohama into Tokyo, it was just almost flat.
Wow. How did the people greet you? You think they would be pretty
They
angry?
were real nice, polite, treated us nice. We met this guy that could speak English, and he took us to a party, and we were going up the steps. We could hear them all talking in Japanese, and as we opened the door and walked in, they all started speaking English.
Huh.
And
What'd they say? Do you remember?
I don't remember what they were saying, but I mean, I could tell it was English instead of Japanese.
Oh, sure, sure. Now, I'm amazed that you found so many friendly people after what just happened.
Oh yeah, this guy took us home for him. We went over, had dinner at his house. And we met his grandmother and all kinds of stuff.
Now, I assume you were told by your commanding officer to be especially careful, to be polite.
Yeah, he told us to be careful, but we didn't. You usually aren't as careful as they tell you to be. And we got along just fine.
Did you meet any other Japanese families then while you were there?
No, just this one is the only one, and we met him on the train, and we got little books to to talk Japanese in, and we're sitting there trying to get some information out of somebody, and we're not doing very good. This guy walked up and he says, "Can I help you?" And just real good English. He used to manufacture automobiles, this guy.
Oh.
I don't remember what his name was now.
Did you remember what brand of automobile?
I don't remember that either.
Huh. He spoke good English, so now.
Perfect, yeah.
Now, were you told to leave your weapons back at the base?
No, we usually took our rifle along with us. on the train. And
So when you got invited to dinner, you went inside this house with your rifle?
yeah,
That must have made him feel a little uncomfortable.
well, we'd probably set it down. I don't remember carrying it to the dinner table or anything.
Did you come across anybody that had any animosity towards you?
No, we really didn't. Not in Japan. We saw they had animosity to their women. They'd push them off the streetcar and everything else.
Who'd push him
The
off?
Japanese was, if a woman was in the way, he'd just push her out of the way. That weren't very polite that way.
No. But was that part of their culture then? That's
I
common?
guess.
Now, you were there for 3 months, so did you just toured for 3 months? What else did you do?
Well, we went into Tokyo a couple of times, and they had some good train traffic there. And then they had 4 moats around the palace, and they were just stocked full of fish. And all these people are starving, and they got all this fish on these moat. I couldn't understand why they didn't eat these fish that are in there. So you had to go across that moat, and then the next one, and the next one, just to get to the palace. And they were chock full of fish, just solid practically.
Maybe it was something. Maybe they knew something you didn't know.
Yeah, that might be.
Maybe that's the first step to making lutefisk, because they didn't want to get involved.
Oh, well, that's good, because I don't like lutefisk anyway.
Okay. Was there much destruction in Tokyo?
It was, well, Tokyo, they kind of left that alone. But Yokohama, it was just practically flat. Like I say, the streetcars lines were down. They didn't have any electricity, and it was a mess. But if they hadn't dropped that bomb, they were digging underground. They had print shops and everything else underground. They were going to fight to the last man. And if they hadn't dropped that bomb, there'd been a lot of people killed.
On both sides.
On both sides, yeah.
Yeah, the controversy on that is changing now. Even the Japanese young people are saying that it was probably the best thing that happened to save a lot of lives.
Yeah, they were pretty glad the war was over, because they were living pretty tough for them. You know, they didn't really have the right kind of food or anything. So,
Now, did the U.S. bring in a lot of food in to help them? Did you ever see that?
oh yeah, they did pretty good after the United States got there.
Did you ever see truckloads of food coming in from
Oh,
the U.S.?
I didn't see any truckloads of food, but I just know that they were doing better after that. But they had their money, even like if a nickel, like 5 cents, they had it in a bill, in a paper bill. And when the guys first came in there, they didn't know, and they wanted to buy cigarettes and stuff from you. And if one guy comes and he's got all this money, and he hasn't even got $1's worth, and he sold his whole carton of cigarettes.
Well, I've seen Japanese money, it says dollars on it.
Oh, it says dollars?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've seen a guy had some, and I said, was that something that the U.S. printed?
they called it yen when we got it.
Okay, you never saw Japanese money with the word dollar on it?
No.
Okay, I don't know where that came from then.
All I know was 15 yen to $1. That was what the United States set it at. You had to have 15 yen in order to have $1's worth.
Now, did people after the war in Tokyo have money, or was that a scarce item like food?
Well, they seemed to have a lot of money, but it was all paper. Nothing. It wasn't worth anything. You couldn't buy anything with it. So, I guess it was easy to get, but not hard to get rid of.
Were you able to use U.S. dollars at any of the Japanese store?
No,
They wouldn't take it?
I didn't go and buy anything in Japan.
Did you ever give the Japanese people a U.S. money?
No,
Okay, I want to know if they accepted it or not.
no, we never spent much money. We'd go back and eat in the park or in the place. We were in the Japanese Imperial Marine Building.
That's where you stayed.
Yeah,
Now, that was a barracks for troops?
yeah, but they didn't have any outdoor. They had outdoor toilets and everything, and they had buckets that they'd come and empty the buckets on
Right.
there. We couldn't eat any vegetables there because it was all human dung.
Yep.
And
Now, was there any kind of kitchen set up for the troops in these barracks you stayed in?
oh yeah, we had our own kitchen. Did our own cooking and everything.
Did you ever end up going back to the ships for a while and then come back to Japan? You stayed there.
No, we stayed right there until we took off for home.
Now, why only 3 months?
don't
You
know.
got orders to ship home?
We weren't doing that much there. I suppose they figured we didn't need us anymore, so we left.
Now, how'd you get home? By boat or plane?
Plane, or by boat. We wound up in Seattle.
And you had to get the train back to Bemidji?
Yeah, back
Yeah.
to, yeah, we could go any place we wanted to go when we got back to Seattle.
So the military made the arrangements. You could take any train you want to go wherever.
Yeah.
And then you got discharged where?
I got
Right.
this for Camp McCoy, Wisconsin.
So you had to go from Seattle to Camp McCoy, get discharged, and then back to Bemidji?
Yeah,
What'd you do it again? To do it all over again?
not in the shape I'm in nowadays. No.
No, but you're one of the lucky few that had some good experiences involved in this in a terrible time.
Oh yeah, we lucked out a lot. I think I lucked out all the way through, really.
You're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Now.
And some of the outfits like ours didn't do too well.
Now you say an outfit like yours. Now, what do you mean outfit? A printing outfit
Yeah,
or engineering group?
They went to Leyte at the same time we did, and they got a bomb dropped right on their ship. And that did away with that, just about all of them.
Did it sink the ship?
Oh yeah, sunk everything.
Where were you at the time when this was happening?
Well, we were on land when that
Okay,
happened. We were on shore already.
How'd you know about it? Someone tell you, or did you see it?
It isn't a very big island. It's only about maybe 15, 20 miles long at the very most. And the people on one end of the island and the people on the other, they can't talk to each other. They speak a different language. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, for an island. Well, there's several people in Bemidji who were on Leahy
Oh,
in the Marine Corps. The gentleman here had went through all the islands and never got hit, and he was on the island for the flag raising ceremony.
yeah, well, I was probably there too. Because we were there in D3. That's the third day that they had the island. We were there. So I must have been there the same time they were.
Wow, well, nice story. What did I miss so far that I should be talking to you about?
I don't know.
That's a good answer. Both of us don't know. Well, thank you for coming all the way up here to the studio. Tell us the story. This is important for the young people to understand what our World War II veterans went through, because the new young people coming up are starting to appreciate what took place back then with our veterans, and they're here today because of that.
Yeah, it lasted a long time. That's the only thing. Didn't think it was ever going to get over with. But like I say, when I met all these people from Bemidji, I told them it wasn't going to last long, and it didn't. When Bemidji took over, everything was fine.
Did you have a picture of Paul and Babe with you?
No, I
No, you
didn't.
didn't. Okay, thank you. Oh, look at that. The White House is calling. Hang on. When you were making maps, and you were making maps for the troops, how many did you make?
It seems to me it was 1 million, but I'm not sure about that figure because that seems like an awful lot.
Well, these maps were going to the GIs. Were they printed on something special like silk or paper?
No, just paper.
Just paper,
Yeah.
so you could get them wet and destroy it then.
Yeah. Everybody got one. And they'd fly over an area and take pictures, and then they'd drop it off to us, and we'd know where the railroad track is and stuff like that.
Did you ever do any printing on silk that went into jackets?
No. We just printed on paper, nothing else.
Okay, because some of
It
the
wasn't very fancy.
some of the Air Force people had these maps sewn in the back of their jackets in silk so they could find their way out.
Oh,
You never saw that, then
No.
that's a different printing area. Okay. Tell me about digging a foxhole by hand.
Well,
Where'd that happen at?
on Goodenough Island, we had,
Wait a minute, back up. Where's Goodenough Island?
that's the first island we landed on when we came from the United States,
And that is located where?
on the tip of New Guinea.
Okay. Now, you had to dig foxholes, you said?
Well, yeah, we were sleeping in hammocks, and they told us to all dig a foxhole. But the ground, you could take a pick and it'd go in the ground about that far and just get a little chip out. And I got the hole about that deep, and I thought, oh, that's deep enough. But then Wash Machine Charlie came over, and he looked like he was right straight above us.
Wash Machine Kelly?
Charlie. They called the Japanese plane that came over Washing Machine Charlie because it sounded so terrible. It was chug, 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 chug when it would come across. I don't know what kind of an airplane it was.
I never heard that expression before, Wash Machine Charlie.
But when he looked like he was right on top of me, I decided I'd dig the hole a little bit bigger and deeper.
What did you dig with that was so hard?
Well, we had a pick, but I mean, you just had to keep doing it, scratching it out of there and getting it deeper. So I got it about that deep, then it wasn't quite so bad. But before that, I had to get maybe an inch.
That's not enough.
That wasn't enough, no.
No, either second time wasn't enough either.
Probably not.
Okay, what else did we miss, gentlemen?
I hitchhiked from San Francisco to Bemidji and back again. And I got here in 2.5 days, so I allowed 2.5 days to get back, and I didn't make it. It took longer going back than it did coming.
Well, were you out of the service then or in?
I was in the service. That's why I had to get back.
This was leave time? You went,
Yeah, I had a furlough.
you hitchhiked to Bemidji, and then you had to hitchhike back to, and where was the location?
California.
Oh, geez, what a hitchhike. 2.5 days in 1942. Yeah, 2.5 days of hitchhiking.
Yep.
That's a pretty good time for me
Yeah.
up here to.
I get in the truck or something and ride all night long. It was pretty good. Everybody that came along stopped or picked you up. And when I was in Nevada, the sheriff came out, and it was getting dark, and he says, you know, you're not going to get a ride tonight. He says, why don't you come with me? And he says, I'll bring you back out in the morning. Took me, I spent the night in jail. The doors weren't locked, though.
It was comfortable.
And he fed me breakfast in the morning and took me back out to the highway, and away I went.
When did you roll over?
What?
Didn't you roll over in a car on the way back?
Did
Yeah.
You rolled over in a car?
I was with a guy and gal, and the gal was pregnant, and it was icy, and they turned over on their sides, and I was lucky I was standing on the steering wheel, and to keep from, because the guy was laying on the glass, and she's laying on top of him, and I'm standing on the steering wheel, and I'm trying to open the door, which was dumb, and he said, roll down the window. I rolled that down, then I crawled out there, and then we got somebody to get them out. Then they said, well, you might as well, we're not going any places, you might as well get back out and keep hitchhiking, so that's what I did.
And what happened to the rollover car? They just,
Well, they had to get it fixed, I suppose, the glass
I mean,
was
somebody
broken.
called, was there a state trooper or
But we
something?
were lucky that the gal that was pregnant didn't get hurt, you know. Nobody got hurt really, except the driver. He got a few cuts of glass when he was laying down there. But that was about all.
Well, when you left, who took care of the couple in the car?
Well, there were people there.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So it took you 2.5 days in 1942 to come all the way from California to Bemidji. So you allowed 2.5 days back.
Yeah.
How many days did it take you to get back?
Well, I lucked out. They had the Donner Pass was closed, and I had to call back and tell them I couldn't get through, and so they gave me a little bit more time. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble.
Why was the Donner Pass closed? Snow?
Snow. It was, when I finally got through, there was snow up to the second stories of the buildings going across there.
That's not a good time to hitchhike.
Well, no, probably not. But
Now-
you don't have a choice, you know.
No, I guess not. Now, tell me about this thing you talked about, the Japanese respect. What is that about again?
When he was talking about that,
That was at the party you went to. They
Yeah,
started talking in
This,
English.
this guy that we met, took us to this party. I looked kind of like an Elks Club or whatever, you know.
Sure.
And we were going up the steps. You could hear them talking in Japanese. But then when we opened the door, they quieted down and they all looked over at us and they all started speaking English.
It makes you wonder, how did they know that when the Americans came into the country, they weren't going to be like the Nazis were, terrible? They must have knew something.
Well, I think that it was mostly propaganda for them, you know, because some of those Japanese were in the jungles even after the war had been over for a long time. They didn't know the war was over. Yeah, I think a lot of them were really glad it was over. I don't know why they were dumb enough to bomb the United States in the first place. It doesn't seem like it makes any sense. They had part of China and they had a lot of the islands, and then they bombed the United States. I think they needed to go to school or something.